The topic this evening, man, and for those watching, make sure you bring some questions. Like I said, share this, hit the like button. But we want to talk about passing assets to the next generation, right? Because this is very problematic. Now, Reek shared an article with us this week, and it was an older article, but I had never read it. So when I read it, I was going through it, and I'm like, whoa, it's so many lessons in this article. And we'll share this article after the episode is over. So we're going to put it on our page. Everybody take a look at this article. And I'll put it on our Twitter page too, our Twitter with Bodyhood as well. So for those who may not have Facebook, look for this article. And it's about land and property within the African American community. I just want to read to start the conversation off. I just want to read a couple things from this article. The first thing it says is 76% of African Americans do not have a will, and that's more than twice the percentage of white Americans. It says many assume that not having a will keeps land in the family, but in reality, it jeopardizes ownership. And that was said by David Dietrich, who's the former co-chair of the American Bar Association. Property Preservation Task Force is his title. So 76% of African Americans do not have a will. And it says between 1910 and 1997, African Americans lost about 90% of their farmland. And they said this contributes to the racial wealth gap. So that's a huge percentage of people that don't have their paperwork done, 76%. So when I read those stats off to you, like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? And anyone you could chime in.
You go ahead first, Reek.
Man, it's jaw dropping, because oftentimes when we talk about the racial wealth gap in America, we oftentimes direct our attention, at least I know when I have a lot of these conversations, we direct our attention to 40, 50 years ago, and we reference redlining, right? And this article in particular takes it further back, and it references many other things that were put into legal position for people to, in addition to redlining that would happen in the 50s and 60s and 70s, way before that, where African Americans in this country were actually homeowners and landowners, but had been screwed over, for lack of a better term, through these different avenues, and it was just, I shared the article, and again, you as you mentioned, it was older, but it couldn't be more relevant today, So
yeah, and it's a very powerful article, and also just be like, so Corey, I'm gonna let you go before I take my piece. Corey, what did you think about it?
I was shocked at the actual numbers, but I wasn't shocked that was going on. We read a lot. You read more than I do, but I read a lot. And so I know some of these numbers, just being in the market and then doing some, shoot off studies. I know, a lot of the generational wealth is not generational because it doesn't get passed on correctly. And so I knew that part, and I knew some of the numbers, but when you say 90% of the farmland was lost, I didn't know that part. Like that was like, damn, like that was like a metal baseball bat to the face. Like 90% of the agricultural land that we had was lost from
literally it's because we just didn't have our paperwork straight.
No, not because, not all of it. Not all of it.
Not all of it, but a huge percentage of it. It says 76% don't have their paperwork straight. There are other reasons why. So 90% is the total number that we lost. But a lot of it is literally because we believe, getting to another point. All right, historically speaking, we have a reason not to trust big business and government. So because of that, many people were thinking like, look, I'm just going to not do this because I don't trust the courts to pass it down if I do the paperwork. So what happens is we don't know the game. So we end up losing because we don't know the game. So that's problematic too. But go ahead, finish your point though, Corey.
Yeah, and so it was amazing to me how many different avenues were used to move people off their land. Like I understood that it was happening, but when they were describing it in detail, man, like I wanted to tool up. Like I just wanted to just tool up, like because it was unbelievable the different ways, you know, once the will wasn't in place and it was left, um, you know, up to the state, the different weaselly ways. I don't even know. Weaselly is the only way I can describe it, man. Like how these corporations and how these developers was getting in and taking over these plots of land, man. Like is like redlining is like when we need reparations, we need them joints now, man. Like, because when you read these articles and you read these stories and you read these books and you read the history of how heinous the this country was toward black people, man, it's it's like unbelievable is not even the correct term, man. It was just like it was so mind numbing that I had to put the article down and come back to it. It took me like 45 minutes to read a 3-4 page article. Like it was unbelievable. I had to put it down because I was like, damn, like this is crazy. Like I couldn't fathom the nuts that it takes to do to some of the stuff that they were doing.
Yeah. I want to jump in real quick on there.
Go ahead,
man. You touched on it, but I wanted to pull something from the article that you referenced, Corey. You said that the weasel tactics, if you will, that were used during this time. Another part of the article, and like I said to you guys off air, like, man, this is something that from this, as an educator, I can literally take this one article and create a full-blown lesson plan off of it for several weeks, probably, And one particular point that I wanted to highlight was from the article where it referenced that, in 1876, near the end of Reconstruction, only about 5% of Black families in the Deep South owned land. But a new group of Black landowners soon established themselves. Many had experience in fields and they began buying farms, often in places that aired of swampy soil, especially along the coast. So by the 1920s, African Americans, who made up 10% of the population, represented 14% of Southern farmer owners. So subsequently after that, you have white supremacist backlash spread across the South. At the end of the 19th century, members of movements who called themselves white caps, led by poor white farmers, pretty much came through to the Black landowners at night. It says beating them, threatening to murder them, and if they didn't abandon their homes. So it's like a story of like, okay, post 1865, post Juneteenth, we're promised that, okay, you guys are free. What do you need to live? They say, they reference in the article, a spokesperson of a group of Black people said, look, we need land. We need land. We land, we'll live off the land. Pretty much like literally like we will reap the benefits from what we sow. Like we're going to plant this land and then we're going to grow and we're going to harvest it, and that's what we're going to survive off of. All right, cool. That never actually happened. We got screwed out of that. They say roughly only 5% of black people in the South actually only were given the land. Fast forward, we're like, all right, y'all not going to give it to us. We're going to work for it. We're going to earn it. We're going to buy it ourselves. We do that, and then we start intimidating other people, and they say, oh, wait, hold on. You buying it? You harvesting the land and you making money off of it? Oh, no. Now I got to intimidate you. And unfortunately, because we are very far removed from 1865 at this point, we may be a generation or two away from it. In the early 1900s, a lot of people, their parents were slaves. They were themselves slaves who these farm owners were at this time. They hightailed. They like, look, I don't even want to go through that again. You can have it. I'm gone. And it's just crazy that so many people, including myself, didn't know about these particular tactics. You know, I didn't know about this. I knew about redlining. I know about a lot of different things as it pertains to history, but these specific things as it pertains to how the land had became unoccupied and how someone utilized a law that was in place to exploit the fact that the land wasn't occupied, and the reason why it was unoccupied to begin with was beyond me, you know. And it just, I think it's truly a testament of like of shining the light on why, in fact, we as Blacks in America truly need to be made whole with equity, because our
absolutely
literally stripped from us, even when we pulled up, as some people like to say, we pulled ourselves up from our bootstraps and made the shit happen ourselves, and it was still taken.
And it's been multiple times in history that's happened, right?
Multiple times, and it happened. Then you fast forward into the civil rights movement, and then you fast forward into the red line, and then you fast forward, to the 80s crack epidemic. Then it just continues and continues and continues, man. So it's like a cycle of us being mistreated, us persevering, getting through the mistreatment, making something out of nothing, and then being knocked down again systematically over and over and over.
That's a key word you just said, right? So when people talk about racism and things like the system, right? So it's systematic. Some of these things you're talking about are systematic. It's not just like, hey, I hate Black folks, but what about the system that's in place, right? And it's harmed so many times. And my brother B. Austin always likes to say, people like to talk about people don't like to talk about how the problems came to be. You just want to talk about the problems. But we have to take a step back and figure out how these problems, right? It's cause and effect. What's the cause of all this? Because there's so much wealth that's lost. When you talk about 90% of our farmland being lost over several generations, that's a lot of wealth. When you talk about us not coming home and being able to exercise our VA loans, that's a lot of wealth. The racial wealth gap can literally be is literally property. It's literally property. Not to mention, shout out to Jose. He just want to chime in and say, what's up, Jose? How you? Peace, brother. But and then when you get to the other side of the equation, we start talking about like equity in the markets. We weren't even allowed to participate in that, right? There's a book called there's a book that too. We can get back. That's another point. That's another point. We were born but there's a book called The Prince of Darkness, which is about the first Black millionaire on Wall Street, Jeremiah Hamilton. He was a scumbag of a person, but he was a genius when it came to the markets. And part of it is he used to have to get white proxies because Black folks weren't allowed to trade. Although he was one of the better traders and knew the market better than everybody, he wasn't able to participate. But how many people didn't take that step that he took? So it's just wealth loss right there. You talk about our land being taken from us, our businesses being taken from us. But this article, and again, I tell everybody I'm going to share this article. As a matter of fact, let me share it right now within the comment section. But it's so powerful because it gives a lot of information about some of this land down south. And the crazy part about that is we're talking about acres of land.